Hey YouTube, today I'm going to give you advice on booking your flights and hotels for the Atlantis Harmony Cruise coming up in just over a month's time. And this is part of my series of advice videos I'm doing all throughout January on my YouTube channel. So please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell in YouTube so you get notified when all those videos are posted. I've also got a blog post about flights and hotels linked down below that you can follow along as you watch this video. Let's first talk about where you're going to be flying into. So the cruise is going to be setting sail from Fort Lauderdale in Florida, and there are two major airports that serve that area. So you have Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport, or FLL. There's also Miami International Airport, or MIA. FLL is a little bit closer to Fort Everglades, which is where the cruise sets sail from, about a 10 or 15 minute drive. Miami Airport is not actually that much further. It's about a 30 or 40 minute drive. So both airports are pretty close, and it's going to come down to a few things that will help decide which airport you might end up picking. First of all, if you want to be staying in Miami the night before and you want to kind of go out a little bit, maybe especially hit up the gay neighborhood in Miami, might be a little more advantageous to fly into the Miami International Airport MIA because it is quite a bit closer to just the center of Miami where all those activities are. The other factor that might help you decide which airport are the flights that are available from wherever you're flying from and any airline preferences that you might have. Because the two airports are pretty close to each other, they serve the same general region. You might get airlines that only serve one airport and not the other, or one airport that gives you better flight times than the other one. Generally, I recommend searching for flights that go to both airports so you can see all the different flights serving the area, and then you can decide which one is best for you. Now that you know where you're flying to, let's talk about when you should fly in for the cruise. Generally, I strongly recommend flying in the day before the cruise sets sail or earlier. So in this case, the Harmony Cruise, we set sail on Saturday, February the 4th. So I really strongly recommend you flying in on Friday the 3rd or earlier. You want to avoid flying in the morning of the cruise. It might sound like a really convenient thing. You can just land in the morning, go from the airport straight to the port because the ship sets sail in the afternoon. The problem with that is it leaves you no margin for error if your flight is delayed or your flight gets canceled or if the airline loses your luggage, and there's possibility that you might miss the cruise, and the ship doesn't really wait for anyone. So that's really not something you really want to risk, missing this week-long cruise that you paid $1,000 for because your flight was delayed by like an hour, or your luggage was mishandled and you had to spend hours finding it. So that's why I always recommend coming in the day before or earlier. So in this case, that would be Friday the 3rd. The one exception I'm willing to give for that advice is if you're flying in from somewhere pretty close and also flying in from somewhere where they have a lot of daily, ideally non-stop flights to that area. Because if you're on like a 9 a.m. flight that was only 1 hour long to Fort Lauderdale and that flight gets canceled, for example, and then there's like another direct flight an hour or two later, you're probably still not gonna miss the cruise anyway. So if you do choose to fly in the same day of the cruise, just make sure you arrive in the morning because boarding for this cruise will probably start somewhere around 12 or 1 o'clock, and the latest you should be showing up to the port is 3:30 p.m. So that's when you should fly in for the cruise. Let's talk about when you can fly out after the cruise. So cruise ships always dock back really early in the morning, maybe like 6 a.m. or so. For this cruise, the first set of passengers will probably be off the ship and into the port terminal around 8 or 8:30 in the morning. All the passengers should be off the ship around 10, maybe 11. Most people book a flight out that same day on Sunday, February 12th. A lot of people will have afternoon or maybe evening flights, and that's my recommendation, is to get an afternoon or an evening flight back to wherever you want to go next. Avoid getting a morning flight because again, the timing is just very, very tight. A 10 a.m. flight, you might make it if it's in FLL, the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport, because that's only about a 10 or 15 minute drive. But like, that's really pushing it, honestly. And again, in case there are any delays and you end up missing your flight, that's just gonna be like a disaster. A flight around noontime-ish, I think, is the earliest I would recommend booking, but the safest option would be an afternoon or an evening flight. So assuming you are taking my advice to fly in not the day of the cruise, but the night before or earlier, you're gonna need a place to stay before the cruise sets sail. So that's gonna be some sort of hotel or Airbnb. Miami and Fort Lauderdale is a pretty large region, so there's every type of Airbnb or hotel that you can think of to book, so I don't have any specific recommendations. However, I'm gonna talk about some areas you want to focus your search for if you're not familiar with the area. Here's a tip as you're looking for hotels and accommodations in the neighborhoods I'm about to mention. Try to look for places that are walking distance to a local pharmacy like a CVS or a Walgreens. But it's gonna be really handy for you to pick up toiletries before you go onto the cruise. As an example, the showers in most of the staterooms, they've got shower gel, and they may or may not have shampoo and conditioner. Even if they do, it'll be 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. So if you don't like 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, or you don't like using shower gel to wash your hair, then you might want to pop by a local pharmacy. It makes a lot more sense to pick it up locally in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area before you board the cruise than packing all these liquids that may or may not leak in your luggage. First of all, there's the South Beach area in Miami, which is very popular. You might have heard of it before. And a gay neighborhood in Miami is predominantly there as well. So the gay bars, gay businesses, a lot of gay nightlife is in that area. So especially if you want to kind of go out a little bit the day or night before the cruise, it'd be nice to get a hotel or just to stay in the South Beach area in general. In the area, there are some particularly LGBT-friendly hotels like the Axel Beach, Miami. Next is the Brickell area, which is like a trendy area of downtown. And this is actually the area that I've stayed at the most whenever I've had a cruise. It is a little bit cheaper than the South Beach area. So for those who want to kind of watch their budget, this is a great area for that. But there's also a lot of shops, restaurants, and kind of all that stuff going on. So you're not gonna get as many of like the gay nightlife here in this area. But for me, I'm not usually looking for that the day before. I'm like saving up my energy to party on the cruise. But it's still close enough to South Beach where if you do want to like, you know, do a jaunt over to like a gay bar in South Beach, it's still fairly close. You can hop in a car. So if you're flying into Miami International or you want to stay in Miami proper for before the cruise, these are the two main areas I would recommend. Next, we're gonna talk about some areas that are gonna be a little bit closer to where the port is in Fort Lauderdale and a little bit away from where all the happenings are in Miami. So Miami, I think is definitely better if you want to have some stuff and things to do while you're in the area before the cruise, whereas staying near Fort Lauderdale is purely for convenience and just to make your logistics easier. The first area I'm talking about is the Aventura area. It's halfway between kind of Miami City Center and where the port is in Fort Lauderdale. It's about equal distance from both the Miami and the Fort Lauderdale airports, about 20 minutes or so drive. But this area is nice because there's a lot of shops and restaurants and stuff like that. So there's enough there to keep yourself entertained, pick up some last minute toiletries or what have you. There's like a Target, and there's like a huge mall, and there's a lot of restaurants and shopping there. That's actually where I'm gonna be staying before this upcoming Harmony cruise. Now looking even closer to Port Everglades where the cruise is gonna set sail, the FLL airport is actually really close to where the port is, like a 10-minute drive. It's about as close as you can get. And with airports come airport hotels. If you just need a place to sleep the night before, you don't really care about having access to like shopping, a lot of restaurants or whatever, I would say the airport hotels are probably gonna be the most hassle-free option. The next morning when you need to get on a cruise, it's just gonna be a very short distance. So the maximum convenience option is gonna be, I think, the airport hotels right around FLL airport. Finally, there's also the Central Beach and the surrounding areas in Fort Lauderdale that's extremely close to the port, and that's another area you can look for. You want to stay really close to the port, and they've got a little bit of shopping, some restaurants there as well. If you kind of don't like the idea of staying at an airport hotel and you still want to stay really close to the port, have some shopping, have some restaurants nearby, the Central Beach area will be one to look at. Alright YouTube, that's all my advice for looking at flights and hotels for your Atlantis Harmony cruise coming up in about a month's time. Again, all of this advice also have a blog post for that I'm gonna link down below that you can reference. As well, all throughout the month of January, I'm gonna have lots more advice videos coming for you for the Harmony cruise. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're notified when those videos get posted. Until next time, bye YouTube. Malcolm is the cruise director for Atlantis. If you have not, my viewers have never met you, but
thank you. I'm just eating right now.
what are you guys most looking forward to today?
Dessert.
Full time. We're already eating dessert, and it's the first meal of the day.
So apparently my day is complete. Right.